I'm trying to understand. I'm doing the math, the science, the chemistry, using technology to try and understand how North Carolina's at 13. I don't get what they're doing. I don't see how they're behind Alabama at 8-2. I know it's Alabama, but they're out of it. They're absolutely out of it. You look at the team, they're behind a 2-loss Oregon, a 2-loss Penn State, who somehow is in front of a 2-loss Oregon. I don't understand. There's no Pythagorean's theorem, or I'm not seeing any formulas I can plug in some numbers and it makes sense. Well, am I wrong here?
You're not wrong. And what's interesting is they're not applying the same logic to USC because they're a brand. USC is the most overranked football team in the college football playoff rankings. They're so bad on defense. In fact, USC is the West Coast version of North Carolina. If you took both of those quarterbacks off those teams, they might be 500. I mean, that's how bad on defense both teams have been. One's a brand, one's not. One came into the season with preseason hype, maybe not warranted. The other didn't. So North Carolina had to really climb. I think the committee's looking at them and they're saying, well, you know, they don't have Alabama's roster. Well, they don't have Clemson's roster, or they don't have Utah's roster. There's another one for you, Utah. And I listen, I understand they got 2 losses. They beat USC. Yet SC's what, 5 spots ahead of them, 4 spots ahead of them. And so, listen, whether it's 1 loss, 2 loss, or undefeated, I can get into a debate with who has better teams and things of that nature. But what I don't understand is why the committee doesn't seem to appreciate a team in its totality, right? So, like, for example, UCLA slipped up last week, but UCLA as a complete team is probably a better team than USC is. But because of Caleb Williams, because of the transfer portal additions on offense, and the fact they've been able to mask how woefully poor they are on defense, then all of a sudden they get a pass, but North Carolina doesn't get that same pass.
Yeah, that's my problem. And look, I know it's not easy when you're ranking. There's a lot of moving parts and things like that.
Sure.
But you have to have some baseline criteria that you're building off of. And for USC, like we were just talking about with one of our Booster Club members, they get their chance. You get UCLA, you get Notre Dame, you get the Pac-12 championship game. So you control your own destiny. Prove it. Yep. Now, the other 2 teams on the periphery here, Clemson, all right, with 1 loss. Obviously, it's looking like a showdown with North Carolina if they can handle business against a Jeff Collins-less Georgia Tech and NC State with Jack Chambers of Secrets, who has not figured out the secret to be able to throw the ball better. When I look at Clemson, all right, then I look at Tennessee. Right now, who do you give better odds of making the college football playoff when it's all said and done?
Well, from an odds perspective, you probably have to say Clemson, even though I don't think they're the better team, because they will have at least played in their conference championship game, whereas Tennessee will have not played in their conference championship game. And when it comes down to a separating factor, then the committee always seems to fall back on that, right? They always seem to say, well, it's a 1-loss team versus a 1-loss team. And that 1-loss team didn't play in the conference championship, but this 1-loss team won their division and did. That's the hurdle, I think, for Tennessee. But I think Tennessee, if they played Clemson right now, would beat Clemson.
So
I think they're the better team right now than Clemson. Go ahead.
So for Tennessee to get in, because here's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the ACC. I'm looking at North Carolina and Clemson. Because if we're going to say that Clemson's going to get in, if they win the ACC championship, which they're going to have to only still have 1 loss at the end, then don't we have to say that North Carolina has to be in if they only have 1 loss? So a North Carolina team, ACC champion for that 4th spot would jump Tennessee as a 1-loss SEC runner-up in the East to make the playoff, which I agree with. So if you're a Tennessee fan, are you basically saying, all right, we have to have either North Carolina lose to Georgia Tech or North Carolina State or Clemson, and then Clemson lose to South Carolina, I guess, or they're not getting in? I mean, is that what we're looking at right now?
Yeah, potentially, because you would need that champion of the ACC
to have 2 losses.
To have at least 2 losses and be reflective of of the overall strength, top to bottom of the ACC, which would hurt them, obviously. And the ACC is part of this equation, but you just referenced SC and their path and controlling their path and being in the conversation. We still don't know if we're going to have an undefeated Big 12 champ. I think that's probably unlikely, but maybe we do. Maybe TCU pulls this thing off. And then let's not forget about a one-loss loser of the Ohio State-Michigan contest. They still got to be in the conversation. And so there's a lot, I think, at play here that's going to determine this. But I do feel, and I've gone through the mock college football playoff committee ranking process, there is a default to a conference champ. If that conference champ has a one loss, it's their easy fallback.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're sitting here, Tom, and the only undefeated conference champions are the SEC and the Big Ten. Every other conference has one loss. TCU slips up. Let's say USC does run the table, beats UCLA, Notre Dame, and Oregon back to back to back, and their only loss is on a 2-point conversion against Utah on the road. And then Clemson does something similar. Clemson or North Carolina, one-loss conference champion. Their only loss is on the road to Notre Dame. And you're sitting there with a good, let's say, a Wolverines team who loses close in the horseshoe, and you got a Tennessee team who lost to Georgia, the number 1 team on the road. How do you think it would shake out then?
They'd put the Pac-12 champ in if it's SC with that gauntlet over the next 3 weeks. Now, I think they'd do it for a variety of reasons. Again, they default onto the conference champ. They would then go to the strength of record and the strength of schedule, and then they're also going to go to the brand. Let's not forget where SC is already ranked right now. They're in prime position. That's where they would go. I think it's also reflective of the absence of the Pac-12 participation that we've seen in the college football playoff, getting some relevancy back. Some of those teams you just mentioned, a one-loss Michigan, a one-loss Tennessee, they're better football teams than SC. I mean, even if Michigan loses to Ohio State, even if, Ohio State loses to Michigan, now let's look at it the other way. Ohio State ends up being the one loss. Ohio State's better than USC. Yeah. But that's not how this thing would play out. I think they would go with the Pac-12 champ. It would be a warm and fuzzy feeling. It's a great story. You have a brand. You have a potential Heisman Trophy candidate, not maybe winner in Caleb Williams. It's too set up, too easy for them not to do that.
So blanket statement, outside of the SEC, Big Ten, take them out of it. They're going to have one in. If you had 3 one-loss conference champions out of the Pac-12, the ACC, and the Big 12, to me, the ACC is on the outside looking in right now. Right?
Well, who would be the fourth, though? Because he's saying, so USC's in, then you have Georgia, and let's just say either Michigan or the Buckeyes. So then who's the fourth then?
That's what
I'm saying. Because if they're one loss?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I got you. Yeah. No, and I can get behind that. But who is the loss to, and how bad is it? That's my question.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing, too, is it out of sight, out of mind? Or does it linger in the mind of a committee when you lose, right? Like if let's just say Oregon didn't screw up last week, all right, and their only loss is to Georgia, the number 1 ranked team in the country in week 1, all right, for whatever reason, that fades off into the background. But if you're TCU and you're sitting there at 4 right now, and you happen to lose, and it's fresh in the minds of the committee, right in the thick of trying to determine
that
the top
is right.
teams.
Maybe it's not TCU, man. Maybe they don't put TCU in there.
That's what I'm starting to think, man. It would be the big between Tennessee and the ACC champion, or maybe it depends on how the loser of the game in Columbus.
Well, no, if USC runs it out, they're in.
That's the third spot.
That's the third spot. They're going to give the 4th spot to the ACC championship if TCU loses.
Maybe.
If TCU loses to either Baylor.
I think Tennessee has an argument to make.
I mean, I do too, but I think they're going to default to, like Tom said, they're going to default to the conference champion. They will put Clemson in over Tennessee. A one-loss ACC champion Clemson will get in over Tennessee if TCU loses to Baylor, if they lose to Iowa State, or if they lose the Big 12 championship game. I really think they would do that.
Tom, how about the Heisman Trophy right now? I know you were talking about Drake May. Look, I watched every throw from this past weekend against Wake Forest, an unbelievable performance. The ball comes out of his hand. It's just different. And for a young guy to be able to make some of the throwaway decisions he makes and managing the game, it's incredible. But, I don't think he's running away with this thing right now. We still have Blake Corum in the mix, C.J. Stroud, Hendon Hooker. How do you see the Heisman race shaking down right now?
Well, he should be, but he's not because he's at North Carolina and not enough people have watched him. They're looking at him in a box score on a Sunday morning on the internet or in a newspaper, unfortunately. And you're right, you do have Blake Corum. You do have Caleb Williams. There are other candidates out there that are obviously worthy. I would have no issue in any way, shape, or form with a Caleb Williams winning it, a Blake Corum winning it, a Drake May winning it. To me, I mean, even to be honest with you, given the state of the football team, what Bryce Young has meant to Alabama this year may be actually more important than what he meant to Alabama a year ago from a Heisman perspective. But man, to me, Drake May is a guy that if you're not paying attention, you're not doing your job. If you're a Heisman voter and you're just looking at stats and you're not, as you mentioned, David, go watch him. Like, go look at how he's doing it, and then imagine that team if he's not on the roster.
It's like all of the best parts of what Trevor Lawrence did, but bulkier and
the dude's thrown off platform more than the guys from Motley Crue. Let's be honest.
And accurate. Accurate when he does it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like everything about him should tell you the ball should be flying all over the place.
Yeah.
And it goes exactly where it needs to go. You can't coach that stuff.
No, it's maybe he's born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. No, he's definitely born with it. Blonde.
All right, Luke, what's up, brother?
Blonde.
Travis Elrod wants to know, #AskTom, is the Big 12 the second best conference behind the SEC? The Big 10 has no one other than Michigan and Ohio State. Maybe Penn State. Is the Big 12 a deeper conference?
I would say that's fairly accurate. But what I would also say is I don't think the Big 12 has a team like Ohio State or Michigan in the conference. So what we may be lacking in terms of elite rosters in the Big 12, we're making up for it with top to bottom competitive balance, if that makes sense. Yeah. But like, there's not, like, to me, like if Michigan was in the Big 12 right now, I mean, it would be, I don't think anybody would stack up well with them. They wouldn't match up. Same thing with Ohio State. But the competitive balance, maybe with a lack of elite rosters, yes, I think the Big 12's probably earned that this year.
All right, let's go to M. Hutton, who's a huge USC fan.
Here we
Tom.
go.
That'll be good. So questions for Tom.
Oh, they're all mad at me. They're all mad at me right now.
Yeah, trust me, they're mad at us too. He says, Caleb Williams has 3,000 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 6 rushing touchdowns. Why isn't he mentioned enough in the Heisman conversation, especially with marquee games to play?
Is he not? I don't know. I mean,
yeah, you mentioned him earlier.
I mentioned him earlier, and I'll say this, and this is the stat that I think alarms people because it's very telling of how Heisman voters do their job in many regards. If you count Colorado and BYU, all right, Ty Detmer and Rashawn Salam, all right, there have been six Heisman Trophy winners from the West Coast over the last, 28 years, and 3 of them went to USC. Now, why is that? It's because you can't win a Heisman Trophy in a box score on the internet the next morning. You have to be seen. You have to play games, relevant games in relevant viewing windows. You need that 3:30 Eastern window. You need that 12:30 Eastern window. If you're going to play your games, and Christian McCaffrey is a prime example of this, you're going to play your games at 10:30 at night on ESPN or ESPN2, and nobody's seeing it. Doesn't matter if you rush for 250 yards. That's been proven because nobody's winning the Heisman Trophy from the West Coast. So unfortunately, that's kind of the reality of what the trophy has kind of come down to. I mean, you look at Mark Ingram. When Mark Ingram won it for Alabama, he had his best games against the best opponents on their schedule in the 3:30 CBS window or prime time, and everybody saw it. Everybody saw it. So we should be talking about Caleb Williams more. He is a difference maker. I think you're going to have quarterbacks go 1 and 2 in next year's draft. And I don't know which one it's going to be, but it's going to be Caleb or Drake. It's going to be one of those two guys. That quarterback draft slot's going to be unbelievable next year with those two quarterbacks. So he should be. And he's carrying that team. Because if he's not on that team, they might be 500.
No, I'm with you 100%. A couple more.
One question the Butch Club wants to know. I know you're not going to be home for Thanksgiving this year, Tom, but what's your favorite Thanksgiving food, man?
Oh man, so I'm a big turkey guy, but I do like an occasional honey baked ham. All right, you've got to have. Now my wife's from the state of Alabama, right? So we've got to have homemade mac and cheese.
Yes.
We've got to have homemade sweet potato casserole. We definitely have to have a variety of pies, right? We got to have pumpkin pie. We got to have pecan pie. We got to have chocolate chip pecan pie.
Yes.
Maybe a homemade apple pie.
Chocolate chip
Then
pecan pie. Let's
dude.
go.
Top notch. Now that's a circus in your mouth. Then you got
My favorite.
Yeah, you got to have. I think you've got to have some form of like a green bean casserole, and it's all got to be like made from scratch, right?
Yes.
Very southern, very bad for you, and then enough to eat
But
off
good
of it
for
for like
you.
the
Yeah.
next 72
Good for the
hours.
soul.
But good for your soul. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good for the soul. Yes. Bad
And I
for the
need
arteries.
I need some old Southern person watching as this is happening. Just that just makes it better. Just sitting there watching. So
Right.
let me get this right, Lugs. You married a girl from Alabama. You married a girl from Alabama.
Oh, it's our anniversary today.
It's your
It's my anniversary
man.
today.
I'm saving
boy.
you. I'm saving.
Shout out Darby Lou.
You
Yes.
just saved
it.
3 years, sir.
Yeah.
3 years.
And I'm marrying a
Oh,
girl
wait a
from
minute.
Alabama.
Wait a minute. You definitely married a girl from Alabama if she's got 2 names.
Yeah, that's exactly
Darby Lou.
right.
Yes, this is Southern Belle
Yeah.
territory over
For
here.
sure.
that's
Hey, so
right.
we all 3 locked in some Alabama
Hey,
girls.
put
Hey,
one
good
right
job,
there.
guys.
That's
Hey,
right.
Tom, long distance
Solid,
fist
but-
bump. There we
There
go.
you go.
Blaine, Blaine's
Hey,
next.
Blaine.
Blaine's next.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm in my 20s. I'm in my 20s. Trust me, I'm good.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah. He's 29.
Each day is better than the next.
28, but close.
Excuse me, 28.
Ah, get it right.
Yeah, it's like me saying I was born in the 80s. I was born in November of 1989. Let's be realistic here.
Oh, you were born in the 80s.
Yeah, the late
Yeah.
80s. I love the 70s.
Tom, what's your thought on cranberry sauce? That's the real question.
Yeah, that's what everybody's asking.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No,
God, I'm
get it out
loving
of
this
here.
interview.
Get it out of here.
I'm
Tom.
so sick of this.
Nope.
What's
No,
going
it's
on?
like pineapple
You can
on
tell
pizza.
our country's
You want candy
going.
corn?
You can
You
tell
want
our
candy-
country's going in the wrong direction. You can tell. David's up here eating
Cranberry sauce.
David's up here eating chalk in front of me, basically construction paper, and no one likes cranberry sauce. It blows my mind.
Cranberry sauce is so overrated. You want to talk about USC being overrated? Try
God.
cranberry sauce. What's up, YouTube? Yeah, it's me, Jay Crane from Crane & Company. That's David Cohn and my brother Blaine as well. Make sure you subscribe. We got some more great content coming, and we read your comments live and your questions and other things as well.